Hi everybody and welcome back. Now in this lecture and a few more to follow, we're going to be looking at inheritance. Now not the kind of inheritance that your granny leaves you, some old railway bonds, but something that's even more valuable, maybe. It's inheritance within the Python programming language. So when writing and using classes, it is not necessary every time to start from scratch. If the class you're writing is a specialized version of another class you wrote, you can use inheritance. When one class inherits from another, it automatically takes on all the attributes and methods of the first class. So as you can see here, on the left hand side of my screen, I have our eReader class open and I have everything down to our method def increment library count. And I've deleted the code after that, but I have everything down to there. So when using inheritance, the original class is called the parent. And this is going to be our parent class for this lecture. And the new class is called the child class. The child class inherits every attribute and method from its parent class, but it is also free to define new attributes and methods of its own. So now let's look at how we would use the init method for a child class. The first task Python has when creating an instance from a child class is to assign values to all attributes in the parent class. To do this, the init method for a child class needs help from its parent class. So let's look at an example. Let's model another e-reader. And this time let's use the Kindle Fire because that's an evolution of what we've been doing so far. Let's start by making a simple version of the Kindle Fire class, which does everything the e-reader class does. So how do we do that? We go class, and that should be a small c, class, Kindle Fire, and it's going to inherit, it's a child of our parent, which is e-reader. There we go, e-reader. Now let's add in our description. Represents aspects of an e-reader specific to a Kindle Fire. So if anybody is unfamiliar with a Kindle Fire, have a Google of it, but it's like the original Amazon Kindle, which was a completely black and white book only model, but the Kindle Fire has a color screen, internet capabilities, so it's like a simple iPad or tablet device. And I just want to say a couple of extra bits here actually. Kindle Fire, then let's tab that, then initialize attributes, and I forgot an I there. This is a comment, so it won't make any odds, but it's nice to have our spelling correct. Then initialize attributes specific to a Kindle Fire. Okay, and close our comments. So represent aspect of an e-reader specific to a Kindle Fire, and then we will initialize those attributes. And how do we do that? Well, we start off with def underscore underscore init, and what do we have? Well, like we said, we have to give it the attributes of its parent, so that is self, make, model, backlight, battery, screen type. There we go. Close our brackets. Colon. Next, what do we have? Well, we have to add in our comment, and our comment is exactly what this method is going to do. It's going to initialize attributes for the Kindle Fire. There we go. Now here's something new. It's a new function and it's called the super function. Quite a name to live up to. So super, super, brackets, dot, underscore underscore init, and then we put in the same attributes as we just did. So make, model, and don't worry, we're going to go through this now in detail and we'll see what everything is. Backlight, battery, screen type. There we go. Okay, now what we want to do is just tab back a couple there after you hit enter, and we want to call my Kindle Fire. So we want to create a new variable, my Kindle Fire. So this is the variable equals, let's call our class Kindle Fire. There's our class. And what is the Kindle Fire? Well, it's made by Amazon, so that's the make, Amazon. It's made by Amazon. And because we're going to pass these into our parameters, we need to put them in quotes. Now, the model, we already know this, but it's a Kindle Fire. There we go, for Fire. Backlight, let's just say it has a backlight, which it obviously does because it's a color screen. Backlight, comma, battery, well, it has a 12-hour battery life. 12-hour battery life. And let's just go simple with the screen. It's a color screen. I'm going to spell this American way for my American friends. Color screen. There we go. Now what do we want to do? Well, we want to print my Kindle Fire. Print my Kindle Fire. We have to choose a method now to print it. And we want to print it in the format of get eReader name, which is a method from our parent class. Get eReader name brackets. Now let's see the output that gives us, and let's go back through this. It gives us an error. Why does it give us an error? Because this indent is one indent too many. Okay, so we run it again. I've corrected the indent, and there we go. Amazon Kindle Fire backlight, 12 hours battery, color screen. So 12 hours battery life. There we go, color screen. Okay, so let's recap on what we have just done. So at the very top of our program here, we have our eReader class. So when we create a child class, the parent class must be part of the current file and must appear before the child class in the file. So that's why we start off with our class eReader, which is our parent. Now down here at line 34, we define the child class Kindle Fire. The name of the parent class must be included in the brackets in the definition of the child class, which we have done by including eReader. At line 37, we have the Init method, which takes in the information required to make an eReader instance. Then at line 41, we have what's called the super function, which is a special function that helps Python make connections between the parent and the child class. This line tells Python to call the Init method from Kindle Fire's parent class, which gives a Kindle Fire instance all the attributes of its parent's class. So very handy, we don't have to write all the methods of our parent. The name super comes from a convention of calling the parent class a superclass and the child class a subclass, just in case you're wondering. To test whether inheritance is working properly, we can create a Kindle Fire with the same information we provided when creating a regular eReader, which we've just done. At line 44, we make an instance of Kindle Fire and store it in my Kindle Fire. This line tells the Init method defined in Kindle Fire, which in turn tells Python to call the Init method defined in our parent class. We provide the arguments Amazon, Kindle Fire, backlight, 12-hour battery and color screen to create the instance. The Kindle Fire instance works just like an instance of eReader. So now we can begin defining attributes and methods specific to the Kindle Fire, such as internet capabilities, the ability to add apps like Facebook or Twitter. And we'll look at doing that in the next lecture. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next lecture.